All right.
Hi, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thank
Great.
you.
So everybody, I'm here with Ale and we've been working together for about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer actually, but she's been with FR coaching for about 15 months. So a lot longer than that. Um,
Right.
and she has a personal training business in California. It's called Steadfast. And if you don't mind, I'd just like if you gave your kind of overview of what you do and how you do it, and where you are in your business journey.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I am doing personal training. I started out of my backyard during COVID, and it was the tiniest little gym. No, actually, I started at tennis courts at a park nearby, and then brought people to my backyard. And then throughout like a year, I got more equipment, invited more people in. I was working at Orange Theory. So I was doing group fitness and just started like practicing personal training. I think confidence just wasn't something big for me. So being able to train in my own small space was really helpful. And then I slowly, within like a year, started building more experience, started bringing more people on. And then that's when I started getting more serious about Steadfast Fitness and when I kind of started building my brand. I built the confidence to go online, to go on Instagram, start talking about it. And it was kind of a mixture of spiritual, mental, and physical health, how I see it. And it's kind of just following my journey as I learn. And I obviously don't really incorporate spiritual into my sessions with my clients, but I've learned how to stay true to that for myself online
Mhm.
and in sessions without pushing it on any of my clients. And I reached out to FR within maybe a year and a half of going into training when I realized like I am tired. I'm investing in a lot of people and I need someone who's investing in me. And that's what kind of helped me. And one of the first things that we did was building the confidence to quit my other jobs. I was doing like 4 different gigs at once.
Mhm.
And my first coach showed me like, you can quit those other things. You can build this point where you're not overworking yourself and you can um, have the confidence in your business and grow it. And so from there, um, he pushed me to kind of see different ways to do training, right? Instead of just my backyard, I switched to visiting people in home. And then with Pamela, we started going into a new gym. And so just learning how to follow success, find
Yeah.
success, and learning when to let go of something that isn't working and when to push for something that is.
Yes. Yes. You said like a lot of great things right there, but three of them specifically, like just, you needing to have confidence in yourself and someone supporting you to do that, following success. But I think the biggest one really is recognizing when something's not working,
Mhm.
especially when you've given it like a lot of good, like dedicated effort.
Yeah.
And then just deciding that, that doesn't mean it can't work down the road. It's just right now it's not the time. And your fitness app is that example, I think,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. That's very
Yeah.
true.
So you are super passionate about it. And I know that you put a lot of effort into it. And you and I talked a lot about pride really being like the reason why we weren't not doing it, or that we weren't going to keep doing it. And
Yeah.
then I remember getting a text from you and you're like, it's just not working.
Mhm.
So if you can like draw back on that time frame, which wasn't very long ago, but just speak a little bit more about that kind of recognition. And even though it was something that you really wanted to do and had a lot of like desire behind, what the triggers were, and maybe even talk about the things that we worked on to recognize that it wasn't the right thing right now, but that didn't mean that we couldn't pick it back up later.
Right. Um, okay. So looking at the signs for why it didn't work, I'd say my focus was just split through a lot of different things. And I recognized that, and I wasn't allowing any one of them to thrive. And so it kept feeling like a failure. And And so I had to be honest with myself, like, okay, am I putting in honest work into this and it's not working? Or am I not like working enough and I need to, give it more focus? And I think it just came down to realizing like, okay, I'm not as passionate about this for this to work right now. It is more of a pride thing. I don't want to let it go because I already posted about it, because everybody thinks it's cool and congratulates me on having an app. When reality, like, it's not helping my clients, and it wasn't bringing in enough revenue, which is also because I wasn't putting in the work. But I was more passionate into kind of working my Instagram page, working on supporting my clients in a different one-on-one way. And I still think an app would work. I still think about it every other week. I'm like, oh, that would be great. But giving myself that freedom to not have to do it right now is going to make me more excited to do it later, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
So just realizing that it was spreading me thin and I wasn't able to give it the focus I wanted to. So I
Yeah.
realized, it's costing me more.
I think that there's a good correlation too, when you first came to FR, you were doing a bunch of things. And then the shift after coaching started was, all right, let's drop some of those things.
I was just thinking that too.
Yeah. Right. And so,
Yeah.
and it's different because like the app and your in-person training, like they're your business, but it's still split your focus a little bit. And so I think that there's some similarities there. So what were you thinking about when,
No, I
right
think
before I said,
similarly, like leaving Orange Theory was really hard. Like people make jokes about it and like, oh, when you're in Orange Theory, you join the cult. And honestly, like it sounds cliche, but you built family there. I had really good relationships with the members there. I loved what I did. I felt confident in it. I was good at it. But at the end of the day, I was tired.
yeah,
There wasn't as much drive for me to want to be there anymore. I wasn't enjoying it as much because my passion was in my business now, not in Orange Theory. And something that Luke told me, business coach, was, hey, like they're going to replace you. Like, don't leave, don't stay because you feel they need you. Because at the end of the day, they're going to do what they need to keep their business going. Like, they're going to be fine. You're replaceable. And it was like, yeah, that's true. He's not undervaluing me or anything, but it was like, stop making decisions for someone else. Right. That
yeah.
was a really big one for me when I chose to quit that one.
Awesome. All right. And so now, through this journey of more or less like prioritizing the things that you want to work on to grow your business. And I know recently, specifically, that's been a focus of the things that we've been working on. And also, how do we make more money without working more hours, right? Like that's everybody's goal. How can we grow this?
Yeah.
Particularly, I think there's a big difference between having a group training business and having a personal training business. And so doing personal training, unless you add more clients and add more hours, but then that takes you way back to where you were in the beginning and just being tired, right? Like that's not really a sustainable path. And so recently, and we're not 100% there yet. So I think that that's important to say, but it's a process that we're working on.
Right.
Is starting to put people from one-on-one personal training into going to that semi-private 2-on-1 personal training model, specifically in the gym setting that you're in.
Yes.
And I know that initially you had a little bit of hesitation and you weren't sure about it. But I also know that recently, I think you have at least 2, maybe 3 new clients in like the last 3 weeks who are completely on board with the model. So can you talk about a little bit of how maybe your mindset shifted when we from first starting that to where you are now with it?
Right. And I think it's all thanks to you for how you showed me like, hey, this is where you're at with income. How are you going to grow without overworking yourself? And I didn't even have that thought on my own. I was just kind of like, all right, keep getting clients. And you're like, hold up. Like, how can we maximize your time? and your success. And so that's where I was able to think about 2-on-1. And at first that sounded overwhelming. And then you broke it down on how it would look and how there is still value to the 2-on-1. And me believing that allowed me to say it confidently to the clients I brought on board of like, hey, there's still value in this, believing it truly, not just, I think this is going to work, like I truly want to. And you've helped me realize, how I can communicate it without undervaluing myself. And then what was the other part of the question?
Just like now that you've shifted, now that we're in the process of shifting, and there are certain, because you're still doing some in-home training, and that's way harder, right?
Yeah.
But we have a couple things working that we're trying to work on, where we're like, any in-home people, we're trying to move to the gym, and then any in-gym people, we're trying to go 2-on-1. And so you've already shifted the mindset that from I don't know to this does work, because we have three new COs who are all in on that model. So if you are looking back and like, if you could tell yourself a year ago that this is okay to do, and maybe not specifically about the shift from 1-on-1 to 2-on-1, but just a shift in a business model to better set yourself up for future success, what would you say?
Wow, that's a good question. So I feel like there's shifting, like what helped me make that shift was showing me that there's value in it for both myself and the clients. Like, this is a good idea and you can do it, and it's possible, right? Because when I first heard it, I was like, oh, my clients aren't going to like that, right? I was just thinking of the client's perspective. They're not going to like that. I'm going to be overwhelmed with more people at 1 hour or something like that. And it was, changing the mindset of, this is going to free up your time. This is going to improve your schedule. This is going to build you as a trainer. And it can actually push your clients to succeed more, to be around other people, right? So whether it's that shift in the business model or something else, is looking at those benefits of making that switch. That's kind of what helped me.
Yeah. And one of the other things that I know you've mentioned that's helped, we have the priority tracker, and while that specifically isn't the exact tool that you're using, but the concept of it, you're putting it on are you still putting it on your, on the background of your phone as a reminder?
So I'm doing it so I have all my clients on most of my clients on one Google Sheet, and I have my own workout, like my own program, on that same Google Sheet. And the first tab is called like my kickoff. And so that would be like my priority tracker. And so at the top of it, I have like the things I'm going to do for my clients, the things I'm doing for myself. And then like one of the things we've been working on is professional development, which could be like podcast, reading, studying. And I have Monday through Friday on there what I plan to do or to write in as I do it. And then invoices to send, just like all the tasks that I want to do for that kickoff. And then, I just create a new column each week for closeout. And that has been really helpful to kind of check in and see like, okay, you still haven't done this. You've kept bringing that one over. It hasn't moved. Or, hey, you've been like, there's some satisfaction of just hitting that cross off.
Yeah.
And yeah, that accountability visually has been really, really helpful.
Right. So the week, we call it a weekly meeting. And you're essentially meeting with yourself, and that's okay, because as a solopreneur, that's what you need to do. Especially like, as we have a little bit of, a few weeks gap between when you and I connect face to face. I know that we connect through text. Our goal is like on a weekly basis, and then you're checking into campus, but like the name of your tab is perfect. Like, it's your kickoff. And you're looking at the end of each week and the start of the next week, like what has been done, what has not been done. And it's kind of focusing you right into this place of, how do I improve my clients? How do I improve the experience? And how do I improve myself? And you're able to see week to week, what you're accomplishing, which is a huge benefit as like to help lift you up as a solopreneur. And then you're also seeing like, okay, like I haven't done this, or maybe I haven't done this for 2 weeks and it's time to get this scheduled in.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, I don't want to speak for you, but since you've been doing that, what kind of progress or improvement have you seen in either like your output or completion, like, you know, more completion of execution versus before?
Well, I'd say I changed my method, right, to doing this thing in just like the last month and a half, 2 months.
Right.
And I have 2 new clients, and I've gotten a new review on my website. I've registered as a business on Google. I've been posting more. So I've been more productive. And one thing I'd say is that after our monthly meetings on here, that next week is my most productive, most energized. And since I've been doing my weekly check-ins on my own, you know, that like solo check-in, I have had more of that same high, that same energy going into the week.
Awesome.
Sometimes there's a lag, but when I go back to that and like look at those goals again, like it kind of revamps me. And so like yesterday I did it in the middle of the week. I was kind of like reassessing for this week and next, since we're in the middle of the holiday week. And I needed that. It really did like launch me into productivity again and help me reset. So yeah, it's been very helpful.
Great. I mean, the other thing that it does, this week is a perfect example, right? You just said we're in the middle of a holiday week. Everybody is just in a different place, probably starting in about 2 hours from now through the next 4 or 5.
Exactly.
So I like what I'm seeing, what I'm hearing you say, but what I also see that you're actually doing is that you recognize that a little bit in advance. So rather than it being Friday and you're like, oh man, I didn't get X, Y, and Z done a day ago, you're like, this is what needs to happen because we're in the middle of a holiday week. So you're being proactive in the actions that you need to take in your business versus reactive. And I think that that's a huge stride for anybody at any stage. So
that's true. And if I can add, just kind of like one of the values to our sessions too is how we start our sessions. Like when we have our check-ins, you ask, how's business, how's life, how's health? And I similarly do that with my clients too, right? How are things going in all 3 areas of life? And I have to check in with that on myself constantly too, because my expectations, my output is going to be different based on those and the type of work that we need to do. So it's super validating for me when we go on our sessions and we do that, because sometimes I haven't thought about it. Oh, yeah, my health is kind of bad right now. Everything hurts. Or yeah, life is hard. It makes sense why business is hard. And it's just like that moment to stop and reflect is very valuable. And so like that's something I can say I appreciate.
Well, I mean, that's great to hear. And it's really the purpose of it, right? So especially working for yourself. And even if you're not, but especially when you're working for yourself or managing other people, like there's not a day goes by that life doesn't affect business and then your health, particularly in the fitness industry. Like if our health is not great, like how does that not affect our business? Because we're trying to teach people to lead healthier, better wellness lifestyle components. And yeah, so there's definitely a purpose to that. I think it's awesome that you do the same thing with your clients. And, you know, in the very beginning of this conversation, you talked about having like a spiritual, you know, emotional, physical component to the training that you do. And I think that those blend really well. You're not narrow focused on just, you need to do more squats as a terrible example. But I know that we've talked multiple times about how you're needing to check in with clients and confirm various components of the things that you know as their coach that's going to make them better. So, you know, if we relate it to our coaching, I know that I'm checking in, you know, if we've spoken and something didn't go well, I'm pretty sure that I'm following up with you and making sure that you've kind of made some progress
Yeah,
in even non-business aspects.
exactly.
So now that now that you've been coaching with FR for the last 15 months, a year and a half or so, what do you find to be, if you can narrow it down, and if you can't, that's fine, but like, what is the most beneficial component for you? Having a coach, and in your words, someone that's invested in your success.
I would say something that has been very valuable and that I've taken away in the last 6 months is the mental reframe that you've given me.
Okay.
Like sometimes I'm discouraged with a client and I'm like, this isn't going to work. And you've helped me kind of reframe how I can talk to them, how I can approach the client, approach the problem per se, and just getting like a soundboard off of like the hard parts of the business where I feel like I'm hitting a wall, and where you can say like, oh, I've had a client like that, or oh, I've done this too, or oh, this other person has gone through that as well. And it just reminds me like, oh, okay, so I'm not feeling oh, this is normal, or oh, there is a way out of this, there is a solution. Or it's just like that positive reinforcement that like, yeah, you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Has been very helpful. And I think along with that, so one was like the reframe, um along with that is just the accountability, meeting once a month and just like seeing my energy after our meetings, seeing that like burst of productivity and motivation to like keep investing. Because I would say like in the last 3 months I had those thoughts of like, maybe this isn't it, maybe I need to go on Indeed and scroll and because like I can't do this. And then like I'd hop on these meetings and afterwards I was like, you kidding me, you said you were going to do this, and like you've invested and someone's invested in you. And so like that accountability is what kind of launches me to keep going.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Well, I mean, thank you for like that. I mean, obviously that means something to me for sure. But I totally get what you're saying. And it's just like, it takes you, because as you know, I also get coaching through FR, but it takes you out of the silo. Like you don't need to be in a silo because A, you have me as your coach, B, you have access to all of the other FR coaching partners. But then the gap on that, the bridge, I guess actually is the better word, is that I can relay to you just as I can to any other person that I'm coaching, the experiences that all these other people have had, and connect you even if you need it. So your network, your professional network grows just outside of your geographical location for sure. Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I don't want to like, I'm sure we could talk for a very long time because I know in coaching, we also sometimes end up getting into things with some like energy and heat and excitement. But if you could just maybe give a snapshot of what we're working on, right? So like we talked about it a little bit, and I think we're like, if we're talking about a pool and cold water, maybe we're into our ankles or mid shins on this direction change in your business.
Yeah.
But what does it look like for you when we're more all the way in the cold water?
So I'd say right now, like having let go of the app for now means that I need to dive deep into my online marketing, which, a month ago I could have been like, well, it's just so much, I'm not doing anything. And now I can be like, well, it's so much and I'm just not doing it. But it means keeping accountable to my goals of working on the blog, working on the social media, being real on social media, being consistent with the posting, And we talked about it before. This is the stuff that gets seen and criticized by other people. So it's the work we don't want to do. It's less mindless. So diving deep into the pool means like writing the content, posting the content, and just keep practicing it because it's a muscle that I need to grow. And then, yes, alongside that, going into 2-on-1 training and having the confidence to keep transitioning my other clients into that. And then also just managing my own mental health around that 2-on-1 training, right? Because I'm entertaining 2 people at the same time, training 2 people at the same time. It is a little daunting for me mentally. I'm just like, oh, what if they don't like each other? What if I say something dumb? And so it's like to get out of my head and just, they follow my confidence in it. And so that's something that I need to work on. But I'd say those are the main stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you already know this. We already talked about don't overthinking it and let them thrive off of each other. But this isn't
See, you got the
time for me to give you a coaching session. Or maybe it could be. Okay. Well, I mean, I want to thank you for your time. I definitely enjoy working with you and seeing your growth and not even that, but it's just like your willingness to take a different perspective. I think that's a really challenging thing for just people in general to do. And, if we look at your app as an example, or if we look at the business that you did start and the changes that you've made and where you are now, I mean, you've had like PR months of gross revenue, you're making adjustments and you're taking things off of your plate at the same time. So that's really great and something to congratulate you on. And also something to like, what are, we talked about triggers before, but like, what are those things, and your priority tracker, I think, is moving you along. You said it at the beginning of this conversation too, like you already have 2 or 3 new clients because of the things that you've been working on. So I think you should definitely give yourself some very valid credit there. And I think, for anybody that's like listening to this conversation that you and I are having, to just think about some of the things that you have said and how coaching or the process or even just the accountability and, the investment in your success has made a difference for you. I love that you mentioned reframing a couple times because that's super important in a lot of aspects. And just, how that can make a difference in your business. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to say, but you've shared a lot with us. So I'm pretty grateful for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's everything. I'm also very grateful again for all the accountability that it's built for me too.
Great. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm gonna send us off and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
All right. Thank you. You too.